Hello, everybody, and welcome into the first edition of the Prep Red Zone Coaches Corner. Last year, we did a podcast version of it. This year, obviously, here on the YouTube channel, we're doing a video version of this series. I'm Michael Knight, the director of Prep Red Zone Oklahoma, and very excited to bring in our first guest of this series. He's the new head coach of the Moore Lions. Greg Bryant is our guest this week. And Coach, first off, I just want to start about getting to know you a little bit. Let the fans and the viewers get to know you a little bit. Who's taking over this Lion football program? Just talk a little bit about your background in football, where you come from, and some of the few stops you've been along your coaching journey.
Sure. Coming from Choctaw High School, where I was the assistant head coach, defense coordinator for the past 5 years. Before that, I had one year stint, Deer Creek, and then, but I got into high school in Oklahoma, coming from college at Southmore, where had a lot of good winning seasons there. So, been a little bit of everywhere as far as playing and coaching. But it's good to be here as far as being the head coach at Moore.
Now, this is your first head coaching gig. You mentioned some of the previous stops. What was it about this program? And before I get into that, what was it for yourself? I mean, I'm sure when you first got into the profession, you wanted to be a head coach. I mean, I'm sure a lot of coaches don't get into it, with the dreams of, I'm going to spend the next 40 years being an offensive coordinator, and that's about it. But, what was it about now where you felt that you were ready to become a head coach as opposed to maybe, previous opportunities the last couple of years? Why were you ready to become a head coach this year?
Sure. You get into a lot of things, not really knowing maybe some of your goals, don't really line up to what you will eventually become later in life. And then as you go, you realize a lot of things that the goals you had early on, weren't, it's not really what it's all about. I think I got to a point working at Choctaw and being around the coaches and players that we had there, and administration we had there, really set it to a point as far as there's a lot of opportunities that people can go after, but you got to make sure you surround yourself with good people, be in a program that wants to win. And so, I wanted this opportunity. I've always wanted this opportunity to be a head coach. I've been doing this for 17 years now. And yeah, there could have been opportunities earlier on, but I got to a point just in my career of being a defense coordinator, and I valued that, but it's really about being on good staffs and being around good administrations that want to do the things it takes to be successful with helping young men become better. And I thought more as far as starting the interview process and finding out about what they're doing and where they're at in their program. And the previous staff did a great job as far as building it. But I thought it was very similar to the feeling I had when I went to Choctaw, as far as there was some qualities where maybe a lot of people don't see it, but I did, Coach Corbin did, and the other coaches on the staff did. And to build a culture and pour into them and do the things that really hasn't been done in the past. So, this, as far as going through the interview process, that was exciting to find out as far as some of the things. It's like the hidden gems that's not really advertised, but once you get going and start turning over the rocks, you see it. So, the head coaching opportunity could have happened in a lot of places, but I'm very blessed to be able to have this opportunity here.
Now we get into the next part of it where, that first gig is more, and you mentioned some of the hidden gems there. And, the more you looked into that program, the more it became enticing to you. I'm sure that's obviously why you're sitting right here today. But what was it about that program specifically where you were like, look, not only do I want to be a part of this, but I think that we can have some success here?
It's the strong traditions that Moore has. I mean, going through some of the ebb and flows as far as way this district has grown, everyone's had growing pains with it. But one thing, as far as I was going through it, and you want to be able to have a program that has a strong alumni, strong booster club, strong administration, and they check all those boxes. As far as the growth of this district and the high schools, to what it's been going through, because I was at Southmore and we were the new school, and that's settled. So of all the times that to be a head coach at Moore and to be part of 6A program, there's not a greater time than now, just because of the success that they've had the past few years. And then Moore has an incredible, tradition as far as the past coaches are still involved. We have former players that are involved in the program. The administration are all Moore graduates, and a lot of the people that are around the program have been around the program for years. Those are things that hold true to a lot of the winning programs that you see, not just within the state, but nationwide, is that they believe and they want more to be successful. And that's where one thing that's different from law schools, in my opinion, that Moore has, and that made it really exciting as I was going through the process.
Now, when it comes to the 6A1 football landscape, obviously you have those teams over in the Tulsa area that have dominated, and now you throw Bixby into the mix, and now the big four, so to speak, becomes a big five with those Tulsa schools. And so, becoming one of those consistent teams, and you brought up something that I think not a lot of people will realize, but you're absolutely right. Moore has a great football tradition, and even in the last several years, they've been incredibly competitive. I mean, they made a run to the semifinals a few years ago. They went 7-3 last year, which 7-3 during a 10-game regular season. A lot of times you're in the playoffs. Sometimes you're even hosting a home playoff game. But, for whatever reason, those 3 losses were the wrong 3 losses in district, and you go 7-3 and miss out on the playoffs. Otherwise, that was a good Moore team that started at this season, I believe 5-0 last year. But you're absolutely right about the tradition, especially recently. And so I got to think that, that certainly played into the decision where, not only is the tradition there, but recent tradition. I mean, this is a program that has had success in the last several years.
Right. I mean, Coach Knowles still shows up on our sidelines from what I'm supposed to go out to lunch with him and be able to talk about it. And that's a unique thing that doesn't happen at a lot of schools. So, we 6A1, they definitely have those programs as far as, and we're going to play a lot of them. And, that's the thing, is that one thing they've done that you can see that you want to emulate is that I think of all those programs that you talk about, the Big Four, Big Five, is that they did a really good job of focusing on them. And that's one thing that we did at Choctaw, as far as building it. And one thing that we'll get to here, and we're starting, is, everyone has problems. Let's find a way to do better than others. Let's build our program. And we have a foundation with the alumni and the past traditions. Those are great things to have. Those are foundations that you build on, but they don't guarantee success. So what it does, though, is that you do have the support to build and focus on what we have. Talking to kids in the hallways and kids on the team, as far as what's going on with other schools and teams we'll play, is just, let's just focus on what we need to do today, what we need to do in the next couple of weeks, and build on it from there. And just win each day and keep on stacking chips, and everything will take care of itself. So, continue to build on what they've done the past few years. Absolutely build on what Coach Knowles and the past coaches have done, but still create our own identity. And we don't really live in the world of trying to compare what other schools do, because I think the successful programs from around the state, they don't really concern themselves with others. They just focus on being the best version of them, best they can be.
Yeah, and I think that you're right in terms of that's what it takes. And I've said this for the last 4 or 5 years, the gap which when you're talking about 6A1 football, the thing that always comes up is the gap between the East schools and the West schools. And I've been consistently saying that it's closing, and you can see it closing every single year. You can point to different games, different results, different runs. Santa Fe making a run to the title game, Moore making a run to the semifinals a few years ago. You can see that gap getting smaller and smaller every single year. And I think that you bring up, instilling in your kids to just worry about yourself, worry about what you can control, because that's what, the other schools, the other big boys are doing. And I think that, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you can make the argument that a lot of the East Side schools, before they got off the bus, they already had a touchdown advantage or whatever. I don't think that's the case anymore, because I think that the mindset with a lot of these kids is so different than it was, where it doesn't matter who is across the field from us. We're going to do what we do. And after, 48 minutes of football, we'll see, what the scoreboard says. But I think that the mindset with the kids, the coaches, and a lot of these programs is completely different than what it was, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's as far as what we talk about every day. And I've been on the job, and my first official day was April 1st. And, some of the things that you see that other programs have, but we're starting our youth football program that's aligned with the school. First time it's ever been done. That will start the narrative as far as what we do and what we do every day and how we do it. It doesn't start and have the inundation of what we do in high school, 9th grade, 10th grade, wherever the kids start being part of our program, but it starts in the youth program. And that's where you can see the correlation of a lot of people success is the buy-in didn't start in 9th grade or 10th grade. The buy-in started 6th, 7th, maybe even earlier. So those are some of the things that's a little unique as far as what's been done in the past, and built to emulate with other successful programs is that, at the end of the day, everyone's going to have good kids every day. Every year and they'll graduate and they'll have better players, better star players from year to year. But the teams that are that win are consistent, and the consistency is in the culture and what they do day in, day out. So rosters change. There's ebb and flow of the players that you'll have from year to year. But I think as far as what holds true to the programs you see at all levels, from 1A on all the way up, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 8, 2, and 1, is that the teams that win have a strong culture of winning, and the kids believe that they're going to win. They prepare to win. They lift ways to win. And they believe in the coaches because they believe the coaches will help them be better men.
You mentioned taking over this job on April 1st. I'm sure you were, around the program before your first official day on board.
Sure.
Getting used to the community, getting used to, introducing yourself to the parents, the new players, things like that. What are some of your big takeaways after a month officially on the job, but I'm sure a little bit longer than that? What are some of the bigger takeaways that you have, whether it's I didn't realize this, as a head coach, or whatever it may be? Just kind of take it wherever you want to go. But, your first impressions of this program that you're taking over and getting a chance to talk with the kids, and, what are some of your first impressions of this new gig?
First impressions was just expanded as far as some things I found out early. That the district administration, the school administration, they really do want the kids to be successful and the coaches to be successful. So they're doing things as far as helping us grow and do that. Then the kids on the roster themselves, they want to win. And they want to do the things it takes to win. And that's part of the process. Like every kid wants to be successful, and they want to do things it takes to be the winner. And as we go and we start growing what we do, it's fun to see where they've gone from the beginning of the month to now. So my takeaway is and these kids are hungry. They want to be able to continue to expand. They feel like, I think with the previous years, they feel like there's a little bit of, they got that taste of winning and championships and, playoff I think that there was consensus that they were pretty bitter of having a 7-3 season and missed the playoffs last year. So there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and as far as what they want to do, and they have, I mean, this is a large school. There's a lot of athletes here, a tremendous amount of athletes. Is, you know, athletes in the hallway that have been part of our basketball program and our baseball program that aren't, and they are, and I like to see that, just that growth into the football program, and that's continuing. And it's very, very, you know, good to see that kids are willing to come out. And, you know, football's hard, winning's hard. And that's the thing, what we talk about is, like, the better we are in our culture and our locker room and our coaches, it's going to be easier to get through hard things. And that's kind of the value of life. You know, it's good to see the support system we have, the coaches that are here, and the kids that are on the roster, is that they're all pretty hungry as far as being successful. And they have a chip on the shoulder to prove. And, you know, kids are coming out, being part of our program. They're very optimistic about the future.
All right, so I've lobbed you a couple softball questions to open this up. Let's dive into a few harder questions now as we continue the conversation. And the first one is a tough one, Coach. How are you going to replace Marcus Dawkins? I'm sure that maybe has come up, but he was one of the most electric players in 6A1 last year. It had a breakout season as a junior. Obviously, taking over this program. You're going to have some new faces on offense, but man, replacing a guy like that, it's a tough one. And when I think about more football in terms of the 2022 football season, that's one of the biggest questions I have, is how do you replace that kind of production? You know, I'm sure you don't have an exact answer or anything like that, getting used to the kids. Spring ball hasn't even started. But at the same time, I'm sure that question's come up, replacing a dynamic player like Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that out of the years of coaching, you know, dynamic players like that, and everyone wants to ask how you replace a kid of that caliber. He's a leader too, and he did a lot of things that on the field, but he also did a lot of things that aren't measured as far as being a leadership and doing things the right way. And the truth is, everyone I've coached, because I've had the opportunity to coach some really good ones, is that you don't try to find the next Marcus Dawkins, and you know, you don't go try to find, you know, the next Jordan Muse, that kid I had, a player I coached at Choctaw, and you don't. But what you do is you build on who you have, and you go from there. So the identity of teams change from year to year, and you know, that's the good programs find a way to do that, is that you're going to have great players from year to year, and like have a kid like Marcus Dawkins on the roster. That's awesome. But the truth is that you want those kids to be successful and go on, and you have a timeline with what you do. So we do have a lot of returning players on offense. We have our quarterback, Denver Wolf, Brent Clark, a receiver. We'll have our offensive lineman back, Jackson Rumsey. He's a college-bound offensive lineman. So we have really good players on our roster. And that's the thing, is that to sit here and we get into a skull session of trying to figure out how to replace Marcus Dawkins, the truth is that you never will. And those kids that come along at that caliber, and you try to find, you know, the next one, sure. But we also have young guys coming up that are getting notoriety, who played early as a freshman. You know, CJ Simon is the two-way starter as a freshman last year. He's going to be a sophomore, and there's, you know, a few players like that. So, you know, you don't try to put kids and put them in a position to be someone that they might not be, but you build on what they do, and you build on the things you do as a team. And that's why, just going back to that thing, as far as having a culture that's consistent from year to year, is important, because you're going to have great players, and great players will come and go. But to sit here and say we have to find a way to replace what Marcus does, you're going to end up not being able to do that. So we got a lot of returning players coming back. We got some kids coming up, a very successful freshman team coming up, and you know, they've had a lot of success from the junior highs and all the way to senior year. So that's where we're at right now is a little unique, where maybe more hasn't been in a while, is that the success hasn't been just last year. The success has been from 7th grade to 12th grade. And our junior high programs that are now sophomore and junior and senior, they were successful then. So you continue to build on that and you find ways to get those players opportunities on the field.
Now, spring ball right around the corner. Time that we're publishing this, first Wednesday in May, so we still got a couple of weeks before spring practices officially open up. What do you want to see accomplished during that 2-week period where you're able to throw on the pads, get out of the weight room, and start, putting and installing what you want the Moore Lions to be in 2022? What are you wanting to see accomplished during that 2-week span of spring ball and team camps, and then even going into June with some of the future off-season things?
I think the first thing is start establishing some leadership within the program and identifying it, going through the coaching transition. Some of that may have shifted or whatnot. And then we've also, just like talked about, had some really good seniors graduate. So that's a big thing for for your spring ball is we do a lot of scheme and do a lot of stuff for the fall season, but it starts with developing and finding who are your leaders on your team and trying to get that type of DNA going. And then start, the second part, just identifying the talent. There's some new coaches on the staff that we have to be able to see who's what and what we're doing. And that will often dictate what you do on offense and defense. And it's not like we have a plan as far as what we want to do schematically, but once we start seeing kids come through as far as what they can do, and that's kind of what we're doing right now, 6 hours and stuff, and just seeing how kids move. That'll be the big thing is, developing and finding the leadership and seeing what talent we have. And once we kind of get kids in a general area and knowing where they're at, where personalities at, it'll allow us to build off of it.
In April, it was announced that 6A1 and 6A2 playoffs are going to look different moving forward. There's going to be more teams in the playoffs. The top seeds are going to get a bye. We're not going to have that off week during the week of Thanksgiving anymore. And so, a 7-3 Moore team would have been in the playoffs, had this been around last year. Just talk about that excitement, where, it's a year where there's another playoff spot available. You have an opportunity to get into the postseason consistently and help, even if it's as, whatever it may be, playoff appearances, things like that. It's part of building steps towards contending year in and year out. Just talk about the excitement, I'm sure, within the Moore program with that news in April.
Right. And that was great news. I mean, that's the thing is like getting the playoffs should be tough and you do the things that it takes to get to that point. But there's a reason that the teams that are in the playoffs year to year, that gap that they create can get larger because number one, just more time to prepare for football, and more practice time, more game time. So the kids that come in the program as a sophomore by the senior year and they're consistent playoff team, they've had more games to prepare for, more practice to be part of. So they'll just naturally have more repetitions where they could be potentially better. And then playoff football itself, no matter where you're at, it's different from the rest of the season. I mean, you do a lot of your core values and you still, practice, but the preparation, as far as there's no guarantees to play the next week. So the preparation is different. It's like the kids will see that and how you go about preparing from week one of playoffs to state championship. As far as what we do, it will help support how you prepare in off season. So, I mean, that's one thing as far as being able to have this opportunity. More teams get in. Well, football in Oklahoma will get better because they'll have more opportunity to play and practice. The gap of the teams that haven't been in playoff 7-3 Moore team. They have another week or so in preparation where you get those districts where the one side district 3-4 and the other side's 3-4, it gets very, in playoffs, it gets very even. So it really comes to a point where anyone can win. So that over time, you'll start seeing teams get better. And just because they had more opportunity to play and practice and prepare, and the whole entire environment of playoff football is unique. So it's a cool thing to have, and I'm glad to have it.
Now, the final question for you, Coach, and thank you for your time today. This is going to be our final question for every coach who joins us. It's an open question for the fans of more football that might be watching, alums, players, parents, whoever, that's going to be supporting you on Fridays, Thursdays, and with the referee shortage, even Saturdays, maybe we hear about that now. But the supporters of more football, what do you have to share with them to get them excited about the 2022 football season?
Yeah, we're going to look to grow and expand with the traditions and the pride that Moore has. I think where the football program is right now, they've been successful and they've had winning seasons, but they're going to see a program that a lot of things that emulates a championship football program as far as the pride and the culture and the things that you need exist here, but will grow within our football program more and more. I want a program that parents are proud their kids are part of, whether they're on a football team or in the band or cheer. So a lot of the core values we talk about day in, day out, we feel like it just helps people be better people. We're going to be super competitive. We're going to go out there and do things the right way, work really hard, but we're going to embrace a lot of the traditions that Moore has and have past alumni and coaches be involved in what we do. Then we'll continue to grow our program as far as how we do things, starting with the 22 season.
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on this gig. Looking forward to seeing how the Greg Bryant Moore Lions look in 2022. Enjoy spring ball and looking forward to this fall, man.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
He's Greg Bryant, the new head coach of the Moore Lions. And stay tuned every single Wednesday. We're going to have another conversation with another first-year head coach. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. For Greg Bryant, I'm Michael Knight, the director of Prep Red Zone Oklahoma. And we'll talk to you and with another first-year head coach next Wednesday.